Sup guys, welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, thanks for stopping by. I hope you stick around because I do post videos every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My everything you need to know about living in Brooklyn video and a local's guide to living in Bushwick. Both those videos did really well. You guys really seemed to like them. It really gave you a lot of information. I kind of fought this for a while. I really fought this for a while actually. I was just like, I don't want to be an information channel. I don't want to just be giving out information about living in Brooklyn. I have so much more things I want to film, but I do live in Brooklyn and it's really nice here in New York in general, and I get why you guys want to know more about it. So I'm gonna give you what you're asking for. I do incorporate a lot of New York content into the videos I normally film every Sunday. So even if I'm not doing a full-on video about housing in Brooklyn or something, there's definitely a lot of New York content to check out on all of my other videos. With that being said, I do have a lot of New York and Brooklyn videos scheduled because I know it's what you guys actually want. This is delicious. Today's video is going to be about the differences between Brooklyn and Manhattan. This is obviously going to be based on my experiences and my opinions. There are 1 billion people in the world and 8 million of them live in this city. So yeah, we all have different opinions, so don't come at me if it's not exactly what you want to hear. This is my opinion. I will have lived in New York as a whole for all of 8 years come July, so I know a little something something. I'm going to talk about atmosphere, the food, things to do, commuting, and style. Both boroughs have differences and similarities in all of those categories. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I live in Brooklyn. I've lived in Brooklyn for about 4 or 5 years now. But when I first moved here, I did live in Manhattan. I lived in Harlem. I have experiences in both boroughs. Although I don't live in Manhattan, I do work in Manhattan. So I'm still getting both of those boroughs on a daily basis. The atmosphere in Brooklyn is very laid back. It's more of a community feel. I don't want to say everybody gets along, we're still people. It's definitely different from the South, where I came from originally, so. You know, it's more homey. You get this homey, comforting feeling when you come here. When I have friends come to visit, or when I have friends who live in the city come over to our apartment in Brooklyn, they're always it's just so much more comfortable here. The cost of living here is pretty average, I guess. It kind of just really depends on which neighborhood you're looking into. If you want to know more about that, definitely check out my everything you need to know about living in Brooklyn video, because I do a whole detailed analysis of living, where to look for apartments, what areas are the best, and all that good stuff. I wouldn't say the housing is that much cheaper, but you will get a little bit of a bigger apartment. If you're paying $3,000 for an apartment in Brooklyn compared to $3,000 for an apartment in the city, you may be getting more space in Brooklyn and just be paying for the location in Manhattan. The nightlife here, I wouldn't say you come to Brooklyn to go clubbing. That's not a problem for me because I don't club anymore. I used to heavily when I first moved here. And it's a good thing I lived in Manhattan for that, because Manhattan is the place to go to for that. Here, I would say it's more live music. There's a lot of places to go to see it. I feel like there's raves maybe, that type of going out, which again, something I used to love, going to raves. There was a place called Output that used to be open here in Brooklyn on Wythe Avenue, I think is what it was. It's been a while. I don't even think they're open anymore, but Output, if any of you watching know Output or are familiar with Output, definitely leave a comment below, because I can't even say it without smiling and laughing. It's just so many memories. Overall, the atmosphere in Brooklyn is a breath of fresh air. It's very calming and relaxing and just more of a living area. Now, switch on over to Manhattan. Manhattan is more upbeat. It's more lively. When people come to visit New York, they definitely think of Manhattan when they're thinking of where to go. Manhattan lives up to that because they know that we have a lot of people who live here and a lot of people who are visiting. You know, something's always going on. The nightlife there is going to be more like the club scene, a lot of bars. There's a lot of bars and a lot of clubs I used to go to in Manhattan, in Meatpacking, in the Lower East Side, basically those two areas. I partied a lot in the Lower East Side for a while. I think a lot of those bars aren't even open anymore. I used to hang out with a lot of promoters and models when I first moved here. So we were partying basically every other day. It was kind of crazy. I mean, I'm sure you can find places around here to dance and go out, but it's not gonna be as active in Brooklyn, depending on where you are. The vibe I get in Upper East Side, which is where I work, I think a lot of old money, Birkin bags, I'm better than you type thing. And then you go to like Lower East Side, which is also in Manhattan, but it's like night and day. Lower East Side actually reminds me a lot of Brooklyn. It makes sense why I hung out there so much. And when it comes to apartments, it really just depends on the area you're looking at in any of the boroughs. Brooklyn is so big, Manhattan is so big. Obviously, the closer you are to the city, it's going to be a little more expensive. And the farther you go out, it's going to be cheaper just because you're no longer paying for that location. But then you kind of are, because like all of New York is fun and exciting. Like every place is up and coming at this point. Like I said, when it comes to the differences in apartments in Brooklyn and Manhattan, I feel like Brooklyn, you get more bang for your buck. We pay $2,100 here, something like that, $2,150. Although it's not that big, we still have a room, a fairly big kitchen, and a living room space. That's actually the biggest living room I've ever had in New York, with a lot of natural light, and we have a separate bathroom, we have a lot of storage, all that good stuff. Whereas if we were paying this amount in Manhattan, again, depending on where you are, it would probably be a studio with not that much light, and it would probably be in a great location. It kind of just depends on where you're at in life and like what you're looking for. Right now, I don't know if I could go back to that because I want a house, okay? Like I'm so over this apartment living. Now let's talk about food, one of my favorite topics. There are differences in food between Brooklyn and Manhattan, but both of them have amazing, delicious, fantastic food. I think all of New York has great food. There's so many different areas and different like communities you can go to that have like specific like specialty food, a lot of soul food in Harlem. Oh my God, I loved living in Harlem for that reason. There was so much good soul food, a lot of good pizza, like basically everywhere. I feel like New York is the place to be when it comes to food. One of the places. I know there's like tons of places all over the world with great food. But when it comes to Brooklyn, I will say we have a lot more tacos. I get Taco Central. I can think of 5 taco spots right now that are like close by that we would frequent. Our favorite one right now is Mesa Coyoacán, by the way. Still have yet to go to this place in person. It's so weird. Like we order from it all the time. We have yet to go in person. I think we're gonna do that this week, actually. There's really not much of a price difference between like Manhattan and Brooklyn either. It's gonna be expensive in both places. Like this is New York. It's gonna be expensive everywhere. That's just something you kind of have to get over when you live here. And then when you move out, you're just like, what was I doing? But in Manhattan, you have a lot more like world-renowned places. There's a lot of Jean Georges restaurants out there, and if you don't know who he is, he has like Public Kitchen and ABC Kitchen, you know, all the kitchens. His food is fantastic. A lot of it's farm to table. He has a lot of specialty places. He'll have like an all chicken place. I think it's called JoJo's. I haven't been to that one yet. He's only one chef that I'm mentioning. There's tons of chefs that have their restaurants here in the city, and it's a big deal because having a restaurant in the city and paying for the rent on the place that you have that restaurant, that's insane. Most restaurants like don't really have that long of a shelf life. So if you're sticking around for more than 2 years, then you are really winning the game. Food in both boroughs are basically delicious, amazing, fantastic. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. Commuting in Brooklyn versus Manhattan. Obviously, we have the subway system here in New York. It goes through Manhattan, it goes through Brooklyn, it goes through Queens, it goes through the Bronx, it goes to Long Island even. We have so many different ways to travel here. Public transportation is pretty common. Like that's not a secret. One of the things that comes to mind, it's so weird, but the trains in Brooklyn are actually wider than the trains in Manhattan. In Brooklyn, I take the L train, I'll take the G, I'll take the M, the J, like there's so many trains nearby, but I usually take the L or the JM train. You have the seats on both sides, and then you have poles in the middle so that people can stand, because more than likely you're gonna be standing on the train at some point in your New York life. Like I said, when I lived in Manhattan, I lived in Harlem. So I would take the 2-3 line all the time. The 2 and 3 trains were so thin, like they're narrow in the middle. So like if you did sit down, you're like sitting and crossing somebody, it feels like you're so close. Like I feel like I was like this close to the person. Like why are we so close? I guess the trains are older. I don't know. They did different designs. I'm really not sure. Also in Brooklyn, there's more above ground trains. There are some above ground trains in Manhattan. I think when you get more to the Bronx, going to Yankee Stadium, most of the time, especially if I'm riding the J or the M, I'm going to be above ground, which is pretty cool because then you get to look outside and actually look out and see this beautiful city that we live in. I'm like in a really like hot spot, I guess. So I'm really close to a lot of stuff. It takes me about like 30 minutes to get into the city. It's really not that bad. The trains are way more crowded in the city than they are in Brooklyn. The weekends and rush hour, any train, any borough is going to be crowded. Good luck avoiding standing armpit to armpit with a stranger on the train. There are car services in any borough. You can get a car, an Uber, a Lyft. Taxis though, there aren't as many taxis in Brooklyn. I rarely see a taxi unless it's off duty or it's in like someone's driveway or something. thing. But in Manhattan, there's still a lot of yellow taxi cabs. So if you're going to Manhattan and you're trying to like, you know, get that experience of like hailing a taxi and like living it up, go to Manhattan for it. There's way more yellow taxis. No one's really trying to take a taxi from Manhattan to Brooklyn or vice versa because it's so expensive. At least with Uber or Lyft, you're getting a set price. With the taxi, they will jack that price up as much as they can because they're running it on a meter. If you're in the city and trying to go somewhere else in the city, take a yellow taxi cab. It'll be a great experience. Bonus points if you know where you're going and you can tell them how to get there, and if you see them trying to take some crazy outlandish way, you can be like, no, we can easily hop on this and go here. You don't need to take this. Most of the time they'll listen to you and get back on route and stop trying to like, you know, rip you off. Okay, now things to do. When it comes to Brooklyn, you have a lot of vintage and thrifting and that type of shopping. A lot of boutiques as well. There's a lot of boutiques in Brooklyn that I frequent myself where I can get things that I know no one else is gonna have because they're either making like 1 or 2 pieces of this clothing item at this boutique, or I'm getting it from some like vintage store. Brooklyn is definitely the place to come if you want to thrift. If you're really into thrifting, L Train Vintage is like the place to go. I said earlier, they have a lot of live music, lots of parks, lots of open spaces. Like I said, Brooklyn is more of a community. It's more of like a neighborhood, I guess. It's a good vibe, especially if you're like an introvert like me. And then rooftops. If you still want to get that city feel while living in Brooklyn, you can. It doesn't mean that like we're just like hippies out here, we don't do anything, and like it's completely different from Manhattan. It's not that different. There are tons of beautiful rooftops you can go to. Most of the times you get these rooftops at hotels and you can go for dinner and they'll usually turn it into like a club or something at night. You get amazing views. It's amazing. So definitely check out the rooftops in Brooklyn. Now crossing over to Manhattan. Manhattan is where a lot of people go when they come to New York. When they're visiting New York, they're thinking Manhattan because there are a lot of touristy things to do and a lot of the landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, and even if you are not a tourist, you should go do it. I want to go see the Statue of Liberty. I haven't done that. I've lived here for so long and I've never seen the Statue of Liberty and like gone up through the crown or whatever. Also, I'm like embarrassed to say this. We've never gone to the Empire State Building. We always make the excuse we don't want to wait in line, we don't want to have to like be there so long, and like that's the story of like every New Yorker's life. We need to go. That's like something I need to do. Lots of museums, lots of parks in the city. Obviously the big one, Central Park, one of my favorite parks. It's beautiful. When you go to Central Park, it feels like you're not even like in New York anymore. They have like man-made waterfalls. They have like this area where people are all painting and drawing. Like it's really surreal. Like New York just has so much to offer. And on top of Central Park, they have tons of other parks as well. Like you don't have to just go to the main park in the middle of the city. When you go shopping in Manhattan though, it's definitely gonna be different than shopping in Brooklyn. Designer everything, okay? You have all of the designers on 5th Avenue, on Madison Avenue. I know, I work up there. You also get a lot more of the mainstream shopping like H&M, Zara, Forever 21, if you're trying to shop at places like that. Okay, last topic I wanna talk about is style. I don't know if anybody really cares about it as much as I do. When I lived in North Carolina, like having style wasn't like a normal thing. Everyone dressed the same. It was just seen as weird. Like I didn't like all the eyes on me as if I was like changing the rules or something. Here in New York, you can dress however you want. I could literally go out on athleisure, which is definitely my style now. I'm like always wearing leggings or sweatpants and crop tops. Like that's my style. You can change it up. You can dress however you want and decide to be whoever you want. And I know that sounds really corny, but that is one of the main reasons I love living in this city. Like truly, it just allows you to be yourself. It makes room for you being yourself. And the great part is nobody really cares. So in Brooklyn, the style is very casual, very, very casual. When I say casual, I mean it's more like you're dressing how you want to dress. You're still following somewhat of a trend. Like Brooklyn's trends are definitely different than Manhattan's trends. Think like Doc Martens and like baggy jeans, cute crop tops, a lot of neutral clothes, a lot of sneakers, Air Force Ones everywhere, all over the place. People do dress up here. Like you'll see girls walking around with their like knee-high boots. Everything's done, hair, nails, everything. Like I said, you dress however you want, however you're feeling that day. Now go to Manhattan. It's definitely a little bit different, but not bad different. I like them both. I really do like them both. Manhattan is more, like I said, that's where 5th Avenue is. That's where Madison Avenue is. That's where all the designers are. Chanel, Hermes, Gucci. Manhattan is more dressed to impress. I'm not saying that everyone there does that. From what I'm seeing, it definitely looks like more people try to dress to impress there. It's funny because when I am leaving Brooklyn and I'm going to Manhattan for like a dentist appointment or something, because all of my doctors and all that is in Manhattan. When I leave here and go into Manhattan, I feel like I'm coming from a different state, kind of. It's really weird. Like I'll be wearing like Doc Martens or sneakers. Wear what you want. Even if you do not live in New York, wear what you want. I know I just said that I couldn't do it in North Carolina, but I was not strong. That was young Raquel, naive Raquel, insecure Raquel. Raquel's still insecure now, but she's growing and she's getting better. So wear what you want. You definitely shouldn't live your life trying to impress everybody else, okay? Like, just throwing that in there. Overall, you have like a more sense of community and like a laid back sense in Brooklyn, whereas Manhattan is gonna be like go, go, go. And it's gonna be like where tourists are coming in, and it's like more of an impressive area. Like they're doing it on purpose. They're trying to impress people coming to their city. There's definitely certain parts of Manhattan that are laid back as well, and vice versa. There's definitely probably places in Brooklyn that are a little more like uppity. It just really depends on the people, the area, and so many other things. I will say both places are great to live. When I lived in Harlem, when I first moved here, it was so much fun. New York in general is amazing. I honestly have just gotten so much from living in this state. If you want to just see all New York content, I have a playlist called I Love New York, and it's just all things New York. And I do film a lot of New York B-roll just on my everyday commutes, and when I'm into the office and when I'm just living, I will place them in my videos as B-roll, so it's not just like me talking, because I mean, I do love to talk, but I doubt you guys want to hear it as much. That's it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. Like I said, I'm gonna have a lot more New York, Brooklyn content. I have a whole list of videos devoted to New York, Brooklyn videos, because I know that's what you guys like. So yeah, stick around. I have a lot of stuff going on.